All right, if we have our interpreters on the line, if you could please use the raise hand feature to raise your hand so that we can find you a little bit more easily. Okay. Okay, I only see one interpreter this evening. If we have another ASL interpreter on the line, if you could please use the raise hand feature to raise your hand so that we can make you a panelist. Okay, all right, so it looks like we do have a quorum. If we have any ANC commissioners who are in audience mode, if you could also raise your hands so that we can find you and add you. Bosco, if you could add Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Blacknell once they get their hands raised, we'll be ready to get started as soon as they're able to join us. Okay, so I'll go ahead and call tonight's meeting into session. It is 7:03 p.m., so we are now called into order, and I will do the roll call. So 5D01.
Present.
5D02.
Present.
5D03.
Present.
5D04. I believe Commissioner Blacknell might still be working to join us as a panelist, but I don't see her here yet, so we'll add her when she arrives. I'm the commissioner for 5D05, and of course I'm present. 5D06.
Present.
5D07. 5D07, can you unmute? Oh, Commissioner Cobb, I see you talking, but we can't hear you. But we do see that you're present for the purposes of the roll call. Okay, yes.
How about now?
Okay, we can hear you. It's a little bit, it's not the best audio, but we can hear you. Okay, so adoption of the agenda is next up. For the most part, the agenda is as it was 7 days ago, but we do have 2 additions that we'd like to go ahead and approve. 2 presentations, one from Christine Roddy on the Gallaudet 6th Street development, as well as one from Kipp on some of the challenges that the school has been facing lately so that the community can be up to date. So we'd like to add, I move that we add both of those items to the agenda. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, second from Commissioner Elmore. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. So we'll move forward with the agenda as amended. A copy of the June meeting minutes, which was our last meeting before summer recess, are listed on the agenda. Any needed updates or changes from any of the commissioners to that agenda is posted?
No.
Okay, so I move that we accept the June meeting minutes as posted and read in advance of the meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. We'll move forward. The treasurer's monthly reports for several months since we've been on summer recess, as well as 2 quarterly financial reports. We'll get an update on those items from Commissioner Cobb. And Commissioner Cobb, I think we're getting a little bit of a lag. We can hear you.
Okay, how's that?
That is better.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, so for the monthly treasurer's reports for June, we started with an opening balance of $97,325.56. We had expenses of $26,014.29 for a closing balance of $71,311.27. And that was our opening balance for July. We had no expenses, so the closing balance is the same. And we also had no expenses in August, so no change there either. For the quarterly financial reports, we are still hammering out the details. We will have those ready next month.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. So I think we just have drafts right now, and then we'll have the final reports for review and vote next month. Okay,
Exactly.
that works. Okay. If we have anyone here from MPD to give the public safety report, if you could please raise your hand so that Bosco can promote you to a panelist. I don't see anyone here. Okay, Bosco, if you could promote. Thank you. And then next up on the agenda, we do have a report coming from the mayor's office, and then we may or may not have a report from the Ward 5 council member's office. So if those folks are on the line, if you could also raise your hand, we'll go ahead and promote you to a panelist so that we can go ahead and hear from you. Okay, MPD, the floor is yours if you'd like to unmute and share your report. You're still on mute. Okay.
There we go. Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Lieutenant Peter Sheldon, and I am a Sector 3 Lieutenant at the 5th District MPD. And I'm going to be going over the last 30 days in comparison with MPD crime stats in relation. Fire alarm's going off.
Oh, no.
No, my wife's cooking. All right, so to start off, we've had a decrease in, I'm sorry, I got distracted for a second. In our sex abuse cases, we had 0 reported. So it's even as of the last 30 days of the previous. We've had a total of 11 assault with a deadly weapons. We've had a slight increase in assault with a deadly weapon gun. It's the previous was 4, our current is 6. It's a 50% increase. Assault with a deadly weapon knife. The current number is 3 in the last 30 days, and the previous was 4. It's a 25% decrease. It's a total of 11% increase in assault with the deadly weapons over the last 30 days. And robberies, we've had a decrease of 50% with robbery gun, and we've had no change in robbery knives, and we've had a drop in 33% in robbery others, which would be any kind of other implement, a bat, anything that could be a weapon. So a total of robbery decreases are going to be 43. It was 7 for the previous and 4 for the current. Total violent crime is going to be down for the last 30 days, 26%. We have seen an increase in property crimes. We've seen a noticeable increase in burglary, which has gone from 3 in the last 30 days to 7. That's a 133% increase, as well as motor vehicle theft. We've seen a 71% increase. That's 7 to 12. Theft from auto has gone up 21%, 24 for the previous, and 29 for the current. Theft, and lastly, theft is up 37% from 41 to 56, with a total of increase in property crime of 39% and a decrease of violent crime of 26%. That just gives a snapshot of where we are for the last 30 days. And we have had no homicides in the last 30 days as well, I'd like to report. Does anybody have any questions in regards to any specific crimes or any NPD related issues?
So the first thing I'll say is if commissioners have questions, we'll go with commissioners first. And then if anyone from the public has a question, if you'll type your question into the Q&A box or use the raise hand feature to raise your hand, we'll go ahead and go through questions that way. So it'll give you an opportunity while the commissioners are asking questions to decide if you have anything to add from the public. So do any of the commissioners have questions?
I do, Latoya Moore. I did hear that you said we had no homicides in 30 days. So praise be to whomever for that. I do want to say, do you guys know, as an entity of the workforce and the police department, do you know what has made this decrease? Is this something we can continue? What proactively have you done to decrease the homicides in the area that we can continue to move forward with?
We've had the summer crime initiative, and we deployed officers all over Sector 3. I can't really attribute it to any specific deployment though, because we have had officers there before. I just think it's just some good old fashioned police work being done out on the street. The officers are really getting involved, trying to get involved with the community as much as possible. That's one thing that our chief is pushing, and which I also support as well, since I've worked on several community initiatives. But yeah, I would say it's just the officers' involvement in doing great police work and being visible and interacting with the community. Those are usually recipes for success, in my opinion.
Is this something budget wise that you guys can continue to do? Because I mean, this is something good that we can move forward to in the future, especially with our numbers drastically always increasing during the summer months, and just during the summer we haven't had in the last month we haven't had a homicide. So I would like to keep this going as a commissioner for sure.
And I think it's actually been longer than a month, because you were just giving the 30-day numbers, but I do think it has, depending on your neighborhood, been all summer for us over here.
And just to speak for the other commissioners, this is something in a positive trend that we would like to move forward to. So anything that you guys can do as a force and a workforce in our community, we will definitely be able to continue to support you guys in whatever aspect we can.
Thank you. I really have to say, I've been with NPD for 23 years, and there's a very special group of officers that patrol the area in what we call PSA 507 and 506. A lot of experience. There's a good bunch of officers, and I feel lucky to supervise them, and I feel like the community is lucky to have them. And I will pass on the sentiments to my captain as well as to the officers. The progress that the community is seeing and enjoying it.
Okay, thank you.
And then I know we have Commissioner Rhodes up next, and then we'll go to community questions after Commissioner Rhodes.
Not taking away from what Commissioner Moore just said, we are happy that the report is great as far as homicides, but with the upcoming rally Saturday or this weekend, is the communities, how will the communities be protected from any possible anything that's going to happen?
Issues.
Yeah.
Well, are you talking in relation to the protests, or just in general for policing? Are you going to have officers out there? Is that what you're asking?
Well, we know that the extra officers is going to be out by wherever the people are coming to do their rally, but we're talking about in our communities.
Okay. No, that's a good question. You are definitely going to have officers in your community. All the PSAs are going to have them. When we have events like this, whatever the event, if it's a protest or a rally or even a marathon, it definitely draws upon staffing from all over the city, not just one or two districts. And that dilutes some of the burden across the whole city. And we're still going to have officers out patrolling in the area, and any extra resources that might not be needed for the protest. For example, the rally, whatever it's called, if it's not as big, for example, then we'll have extra staffing too. So, but we will have officers that go out there in PSA 507 and 506.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to members of the public. We do have a question here from Alice Berry, and then we'll move to those folks who have their hands raised to ask questions themselves. Alice Berry asks, what does MPD's involvement in the community entail / look like exactly?
I might be trying to make that more complicated, but can you repeat the question again for me?
Sure. So basically she's asking what MPD's community involvement looks like. So well, Alice, if you want to elaborate on that, you're welcome to add to that question. But what kind, I guess she's wondering, you were talking about better community engagement. I think she's asking about what those community engagements are.
So we don't want all the interaction with law enforcement to be negative. In general, most people, when you think to your interaction with law enforcement, it's usually at a bad time in your life, right? You're being pulled over, or you're the victim of a crime, right? Or something. So we want to be more involved in approaching citizens, as well as staying involved with the kids in the community. We have a community outreach program that does certain initiatives, and it's usually put out on the listserv where they're going to be, what they're doing. They do things like, for example, at the beginning of the school year, they passed out book bags full with supplies to kids. They utilize the Gruff the Crime dog. They go around to the kids. All through the year during different times, you'll see us interacting with the community. It's just a simple way that we interact with the community is just parking your car and walking around and talking to people. To me, that is very important. I don't want our only interactions with people to be negative. I had, when I was a sergeant, I had a unit in Chinatown that was, everyone was on a foot beat. And that's how we got to really know the community very well, the people we protected and served. And I think it's good when officers have those kind of interactions.
Okay, thank you for that. So let's hear from Ms. Diggs. Bosco, if you could go ahead and unmute Ms. Diggs, and then we'll come back and hear from Skip Keats. And then we'll go ahead and move forward in our agenda to hear from the mayor's office. So Ms. Diggs, whenever you're ready, I think Bosco is giving you the ability to unmute your microphone.
Yes, he has. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good evening. So I'm Juanita Diggs, the president of the Langston Civic Association. So I wanted to say two things. We had a wonderful summer, and Captain Heberneck, who headed our summer crime initiative, did an exemplary job throughout the whole summer. He was here often. But I noticed that as soon as the Summer Crime Initiative ended, we've been having block parties every night. Now, it used to just sort of be weekends, but now it's like every night. So the week before Labor Day, that week before, every night, up to and including and past Labor Day, we've had hundreds of people out here between M Street and Maryland Avenue on 21st, partying until like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I don't think that even if they did get a permit, it wouldn't have lasted that long. So what say you to that, sir?
Sorry, I was trying to write down the streets. You said M Street to Maryland Avenue. I just want to make sure I'm correct.
The 1100 block of 21st Street between M and Maryland Avenue.
Okay. If people are when you say a permit for what's precisely?
there were at least 100+ people in the street and on the sidewalk drinking and, you know, having a block party of their own that I'm sure they did not get a permit for. Had they got a permit, the permit would not have lasted for 5 o'clock in the morning. That would not have been so. So we've had this, you know, there are people who have returned to work. There are kids who are going to school. You know, it's just, this is how it was prior to the Summer Crime Initiative. And as soon as the Summer Crime Initiative ended, it seems to have returned immediately. So how can we, I'm saying that Captain Kaepernick did an excellent job.
One thing that is important that we try to do is with the when we see large gatherings, we try to get early on, find out what exactly is going on. Are we there for a specific reason? Or are people just hanging out? Obviously, drinking in public is still illegal currently. You know, it also comes down to if I only have 10, 15 officers available to arrest 100 or 150, we have to figure out how to do something without using handcuffs and try to get convince people to leave the block on their own. And sometimes we're successful and sometimes we're not so successful at that, as you probably have seen. But I was not aware that had resurfaced as a problem. I am taking notes to pass on to my officers and sergeants as we tailor our operations accordingly.
So may I ask, so that the increased police presence that we wonderfully enjoyed during the summer is no longer and will be no longer?
I don't know our exact resources moving forward, because they also sometimes do fall crime initiatives. I have to find out about that. I'm actually on limited duty. That's why you don't see me in uniform right now. And I'm just coming back to work, hopefully full duty soon. But I'll be able to find out for you about if we're going to be having a fall initiative. But we still have officers in the area. We still have a lot of officers assigned to PSA 507 and 504, or specifically around the 800 to 1100 block of 21st Street in Maryland and M. We have a lot of officers assigned there.
I've not seen any of them, but thank you if indeed they're assigned there, but I've not seen any. And whereas before I was seeing them often and every day.
Well, I'll definitely figure out what's going on that.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you, sir.
And then let's hear from Skip Keats. Skip, Bosco's going to go ahead and give you the ability to unmute. All right, go ahead with your question.
Hi, sir. My bike was stolen from inside my building. The guy forced the doors open. It's a locked system. He forced the door open and came up to the 3rd floor on the 8th of August and stole my Trek bicycle. A report was filed. I haven't been able to get the police report yet. It was assigned to Detective Geen, who I've been trying to reach periodically. I've spoken to him once, maybe twice, but that was before. I've seen the guy on my bicycle 4 to 5 times. So have my neighbors. He's been riding around the neighborhood on it. I call 911, and I'm on the phone so long. By the time they said they'll send someone, he's disappeared. I want my bike back.
Yeah, no. As a cyclist, I definitely share your frustration with that, and I would definitely be frustrated.
He sent videos to Detective Geen, full clear pictures of the guy with dreadlocks and all.
And if you could, why don't I do this? If you could be so kind, if I provide you with my email, could you email me so I can get you a PDF copy of that report?
I would greatly appreciate that, because without that, I can't even talk to my insurance.
Right, but I definitely empathize with you regarding the bike, and if my bikes were stolen, I definitely would be able to recognize them very quickly.
Of course, the other issue is that he broke into a secured building by forcing our doors, which we're talking to the people who built this building about that. But it's concerning. He went through the entire building.
What was the address on that again?
1821 I Street Northeast. It's a brand new building. It was finished last summer. It's a condo. It's the backside. It's basically on the backside of the Aldi and off a little bit.
So my email address, and for anyone that would like to contact me for any reason, it's any problems in specific to your community, my email is it's Peter common spelling .sheldon@dc.gov. So Peter.sheldon@dc.gov.
Okay, and then Lieutenant Sheldon, I'm just going to ask if you could please, at the end of the MPD portion of the meeting, type into the group chat to all attendees your email address, so that anyone who wants to reach out can contact you with any of the questions we didn't get to this evening.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. I have the report number. If that will help getting the police report.
Sure. What is it?
Well, let me pause you guys. I would encourage you guys to go ahead and handle that offline, because maybe also, there are some concerns about your safety here in terms of maybe sharing too much information.
Gotcha. Okay.
In a public meeting. So I've asked Lieutenant Sheldon if he could go ahead and share his email in the chat. And then if you guys can get together via email, I know that Lieutenant Sheldon will get back with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So
we're listening to my exasperation.
Yes, I do understand. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and move forward in the meeting to hear from the representative from the mayor's office. So if you're here on the line from the mayor's office, if you could go ahead and raise your hand. I do see you, Ms. Woods. So Bosco, if you could go ahead and promote Ms. Woods. Ms. Woods is one of our new mokers for Ward 5. We still have Nokomis with us, but Ms. Woods is taking the place of Ms. Butler. So Ms. Woods, the floor is yours. Welcome to ANC 5D. We're very happy to have you.
Thank you all so much. I'm really excited to be with you all. I'm at my first 5D meeting. So I do want to start with some updates from DCPS. I know we have our kiddos in school, and a lot of folks have questions just about what testing will look like. So weekly, about 10 to 20% of a random sample will be selected to be tested. All unvaccinated staff will be tested weekly. And then all students and staff must provide that active consent to be tested, just in case folks need to be tested for any concerns that may happen. Of course, in terms of quarantine, we're still requiring those 10 days of isolation after folks have or have tested positive for COVID. And if folks have any questions, CPS concerns, I'd be happy to connect you with our representatives within that agency. Also looking ahead to some of the proceedings in terms of the eviction moratorium, we want to make sure that we do have September 26th on our calendars. That is when all rules return to normal. So all filings will be allowed at that time. And so notices to vacate will also resume. So it's important for us to inform community members to make sure people are connected to the proper supports should they need them. But make sure that September 26th is on your radar as well. I believe we have 12 more days, so almost a little under 2 weeks out. And of course, vaccinations, we are still encouraging our youth to get vaccinated. And as well as everyone else in the district, but especially for our young folks, we still have our $51 Visa gift cards or AirPods that folks have really been enjoying. So if you have any questions, we are also very happy to connect you with our COVID-19 Community Corps, who's doing that work on the ground to connect residents, especially in Ward 8 and Ward 7, but across the district as a whole, and of course, including Ward 5. I won't take up too much time, but I do want to make sure that folks are aware of our emergency broadband benefit. especially as we're plugging into the world again, ensuring that folks have internet access is imperative. So there is a temporary program to assist low-income residents with at-home internet service. So it is, I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the chat for you all, but it provides up to $50 a month for internet service for low-income households. So it is can be incredibly advantageous to ensure folks can stay connected to school, work, etc. And I can definitely take questions at this time.
Okay, so we'll keep the same strategy going, and we'll hear questions from the commissioners first. If you're a member of the public and you have a question, please either type your question into the Q&A field or use the raise hand feature, and we'll call on a few folks once we hear from our commissioners. So commissioners, any questions from you all?
I had two questions. Chairperson Moore.
Yes, go ahead.
Ms. Woods, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Two questions. Has the mayor indicated she will require vaccinations for DCPS staff in the future with mandate in lieu of testing? And all of the coverage I've seen about Stay DC has indicated that we are not getting the money out to people that need it at anywhere near the rate that it's needed. I've talked to a couple residents who've applied. Their applications are being held up. I've pushed them to people that have said they could help. Are we at risk of not having that money available if it's not spent by a certain deadline, and possibly causing some evictions that are unnecessary? Is that possible?
So at this time, I'll answer your first question. Hi, Commissioner Hoffman. So at this time, the mayor has not provided guidance on whether there will be whether the option of testing will be taken away completely. So we do still have that option of weekly testing. In regards to Stay DC, it is a big program that is trying to span and help a lot of people. So I've heard that as well in communicating with our residents, and what we're dealing with, quite honestly, is ramping up with the need and the capacity that we have. And so I do want to reassure you all that Stay DC is aware of its need to expand. It is growing. It's trying to meet the needs of the district, but it's imperative that we're continuing to pull those people in when people are kind of feeling that they're falling through the cracks, even though we know sometimes there is a wait list, and if X number amount of people, we still got to get through that wait list. But it is very helpful that you continue to raise those up to people, because sometimes just taking that service request number and saying, hey, what's going on with this can remedy some of those issues. So all commissioners, please use me as a resource. I'm excited to get to know you all, but I'm also eager to navigate, especially Stay DC for our residents.
All right, any other questions from commissioners? Okay, and I don't see any questions in the chat, I'm sorry, in the Q&A box, or any raised hands now that I'm scanning here. So I don't see anyone there. So thank you so much for your updates, Ms. Woods. If you could please type your email address and contact information into the chat box to share with all attendees in case folks need to get in touch with you. We'd appreciate it, and thank you.
Of course, thank you all so much.
Okay. I know that I did get a note from Silas Grant from the Ward 5 Council Member's Office that he might not be able to attend this evening. So I don't see him here. I know they're responding to an incident where a child was very badly injured. You know, we're very hopeful, you know, that the child will be safe, and you know, our thoughts and prayers are with the family. So let's go ahead and move forward in our agenda to the requested presentations. If there are updates later from the council member's office, we'll go back to that later on this evening. So for requested presentations, we have Reginald Black first up on our list. So if you'll raise your hand, Mr. Black, we'll hear from you first, and Bosco will promote you to a panelist. We also have a presentation pending from Gallaudet on the 6th Street development. So if they are here, if you'll go ahead and raise your hand at this time so that we can go ahead and be ready to hear from you in just a few minutes. I know also Jacques Patterson is on the agenda for tonight. And if you could raise your hand as well, we'll go ahead and tee up the requested presentations for this evening. Mr. Black, the floor is yours to share with us. Do you need to share your screen, or are you just going to be speaking with us?
I think later on, but right now I'll just be talking. So good evening, Commission 5D. My name is Reginald Black. I am the now executive director of an organization called People for Fairness Coalition. People for Fairness is a group of men and women who have this unique and shared experience of housing instability here in the District of Columbia. And our mission is to end that housing instability through our advocacy, outreach, and peer mentoring. We have about 5 initiatives that we're conducting. We have right now our COVID-19 outreach, which we're going to some of the largest encampments in the city to provide our style of personal protective equipment for those who are living outside to be able to utilize their porta potties and hand washing stations properly, as well as provide life-saving items such as tents, sleeping bags, and also Narcan. We also have our Anti-Discrimination Campaign, which seeks to make homelessness as defined by HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, definition of homelessness to the 21 protected traits of the DC Human Rights Act of 1977. We also have our Universal Right to Housing campaign, which seeks to create a right to housing in the District of Columbia, codified in the DC Code. And also we have our Public Restrooms Committee and Lou Committee, who have been instrumental in supporting the creation of the Public Restroom Facilities and Promotions Act, which will pilot out 2 public restrooms 24/7, and also have incentives for businesses to open their restrooms to the public for use, so that folks who have may have needs is such as the use of a restroom, that they can do that anywhere in the city. And we also have our memorization events for those who unfortunately pass away without the dignity of a home through our annual Homeless Memorial Vigil and Memorial Day service called The Longest Night of the Year, and also The Longest Day of the Year, as well as a media component to it, which is called Vigil 365, when we encounter the loss of our brothers and sisters on the streets in real time, to provide them with an official obituary so that they have all the honor and rights of a funeral, much like people of our housed neighbors. We are greatly engaged in the Interagency Council on Homelessness, and we are especially proud of our work along with its consumer engagement work group to produce Goal 12 in Homer DC 2.0 to provide leadership in providing housing as a right in this country, the United States. I believe I'm here tonight to speak to some issues about public restrooms, and also to answer questions and provide my best guidance and feedback to a facility that is dear to this commission, which is the New York Avenue Men's Facility. We work with those guys to make sure they have the peer mentoring supports and housing supports and equity that they need through our engagements with the ICH. But we've been, since 2014, convening our public restroom, affectionately the Lou Committee, to promote 24/7 public restrooms throughout the District of Columbia. And as I've stated before, we were able to support the creation and funding of the Public Restrooms Facilities and Promotions Act. Of course, this bill actually creates 2 pilot 24/7 public restrooms. And now we're actually working with the mayor's working group and task force on this to identify 2 perfect locations for the pilot. And we also have emphasized and wanted to make sure that businesses also opened their restrooms to the public for those who have urinary needs, those types of things. And so I know that there are a lot of questions about these 2 issues here in the District of Columbia, and I know a lot of them will center around what is happening with New York Avenue. I can tell you that there are plans to replace that facility down the road, but those details, I think that others would have all of the details they need, but we are greatly concerned about that shelter being replaced and making sure that the residents of the New York Avenue Men's Facility are stakeholders in the process, and that they are able to express their views as to what a model facility would be for the replacement of the New York Avenue shelter. We already tentatively have a model being constructed in Southeast to replace the 801 East Men's Shelter. That particular project includes the creation of 3 wings, a day center, also a medical clinic on site. The shelter for the day services and other supportive services is in the contract and procurement process as we speak. And we want to make sure that the residents of New York Avenue shelter have that same opportunity. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions people may have.
Reginald, I want to ask, how can we go about getting more porta potties, especially in Ivy City or in places where a lot of the shelters are located in the communities?
So the porta potties themselves actually were for those who are actually living in encampments. So if you have a set of encamped residents, which would be 10 people or 10 tents or more, you can definitely get in contact with the Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services Office and the Department of Human Services to request a porta potty and hand washing station. I believe there are still funds unused from our COVID responses for 2020 to support that. And I think that having that concern is something that does need to be raised. But in certain circumstances, the New York Avenue Men's Facility is open 24 hours, 7 days a week right now per our COVID protocol, and in any hypo or hyperthermia alert. Hypothermia is 32 degrees and below. Hyperthermia is 95 degrees and above, counting both wind chill and humidity index.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the definition on that. That's very useful. So I do see that we have a few raised hands from members of the community. Just a reminder to everyone, if you have questions on this specific topic, if you could put those in the Q&A box or raise your hand at this time. If you have questions that are on another topic, I will ask if you could reserve those for the community question and announcement section of the meeting. Just want to make sure we don't miss anyone who has a question on this topic and keep things orderly. So Bosco, if you could take Ms. Murray and give her the opportunity to unmute her microphone, and then we'll hear from Ms. Meckley and then Mr. Posada, and then we'll move forward in the agenda. All right. Ms. Meckley, you should have Ms. Murray, you should have the ability to unmute.
I think I'm on the Gallaudet University topic. So.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and remute you, and then we'll hear from one of our constituents with a question. So Ms. Meckley, I think you were next.
I believe the next 2 are also presenters with the Gallaudet project.
Okay, so you guys are a large group. So we've got Lucas Posada also with Gallaudet, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and then I do believe that's all I see for raised hands. Sam Swiller, I know this is, are you asking about the presentation we just heard?
He's also with our presentation.
Okay, so let's go with Eric Colbert.
I'm sorry, he's also with our presentation.
My goodness. Okay, let's pick one person to talk for you guys' presentation. So we're going to go ahead, and since you guys are sweeping the room here, what we're going to do is go ahead and I do see one question just popping up in the Q&A box. Let's see if that is on this. No, so that's not on this issue either. Okay, so we'll go ahead. Thank you so much, Mr. Black. I really appreciate your very informative presentation on that topic, and really helping define, really some of the key terms and aspects around this issue. It was very informative. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me. I will leave my contact information and PFFC's website in the chat if any more questions come up.
Please do. Please do. Much appreciated. Thank you. Okay. All right. And so since we've heard from Mr. Black, we're going to go ahead and move forward to our next presentation, where apparently everyone is presenting on Gallaudet and the 6th Street development. So Bosco, if you could go ahead and take anyone with a raised hand and elevate them to a panelist. First, I guess I'll turn the floor over to Ms. Roddy, and then you can, I don't know, manage the symphony, I guess.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. As you said, Christine Roddy with Golston Stores, and I'm here tonight with, as you've met, the entire development team for the 2-stage PUD approved for 4 parcels of land owned by Gallaudet in Union Market. And as you can see from the slide on your screen, the 4 parcels are in the darker gray. And if we move to the next slide, you'll see it a little bit more clearly. And we have parcel 1 is the university building at the corner of Florida and 6th. And then we have parcel 2 immediately to the north, parcel 3 on the opposite of 6th Street, and then parcel 4 farther to the north. And the 1st stage PUD for these parcels was approved by the Zoning Commission. And we're here tonight to present the 2nd stage application for 2 of those parcels, as well as modifications to the 1st stage approval for 3. So as you may know, 1st stage PUDs largely focus on project massing, things such as height, density. It also focuses on site plan, whereas the 2nd stage PUD review focuses primarily on building design. So that's what we are here to show this evening. The detailed application materials have been filed with the Zoning Commission, and you can find them in case number 15-24B. And we are happy to be here tonight to give you an overview of the project. And so I will turn it to the project team, but before I do that, just want to let you know that there have been 3 hearings scheduled for this application, with the first being November 4th. So we are excited to be here. We will, I'm sure, be in communication constantly throughout this. And so with that, I will turn it to Robbie with JBGS, and she can introduce herself and the project team.
Hi, I'm Robbie Sacklarinas. I'm the development manager with JBG Smith. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us tonight and to hear us. I'll give a little bit of an overview on the parcel locations and then our stage 1 PUD before I hand it over to my counterpart at Gallaudet and our design team to give a little more detail into our stage 2. So the 2 parcels that are currently the subject of our application are parcels 2 and 3. They're both currently used for parking. Parcel 3 is the parking lot, the surface parking lot in front of Union Market. And parcel 2 is the parking deck to the east across 6th Street that's currently used by Gallaudet. A brief overview of the community benefits and amenities package. This was approved as part of our stage 1 approvals with full ANC support and OP support, who's continued to support our 2nd stage application as well. It's a long list, so I'll hit on some of the highlights. As I mentioned before, the current use of these parcels is parking. So all of the housing and retail and affordable housing and makerspace is all sort of net new and additive to the neighborhood. in place of parking. And actually we are replacing that parking as part of our project as well. We are providing approximately 95 units of affordable housing as part of the project. The majority of those are at the 50% affordability level. We've executed first source agreements with DOES that will prioritize hiring local DC residents as part of the whole construction process. We've got 10,000 square feet of retail dedicated to makerspace at a discount to market rents. 5,000 square feet will be dedicated to deaf and hard of hearing entrepreneurs. We're doing a lot to improve the pedestrian experience along 5th and 6th as part of this project, including approximately 65,000 square feet of open space. And Sam at Gallaudet is going to tell us a little bit more about those in just a minute. We're doing a lot to make 6th Street a little safer. So we're going to narrow the right of way to slow traffic. There'll be a protected bike lane there and tabletop crossings, all to prioritize the pedestrian here. And then a few things in conjunction with DDOT to help with traffic mitigation, including new signaling and traffic cameras, among other efforts. And then last but not least, the sustainability. All of our buildings will be LEED certified, and our parcel 3 will include a solar panel array as well. So that's a little summary of the project location and our stage 1, and I'll turn it over to Sam so that he can tell us a little bit more about the university's plan as part of this application.
Thank you, Robbie, and thank you to everyone for making the time for us to present tonight. My name is Sam Swiller. I'm the Director of Real Estate at Gallaudet University, and I'm speaking tonight to represent Gallaudet and to give support to the project overall, but also to give you some background on some of the campus side of the project. So the balance of the presentation you'll hear today is largely focused on the stage 2 PUD design for parcels 2 and 3. I'm going to talk a little bit more about parcel 1, which was originally approved to be a multifunctional open space of approximately 16,000 square feet. And you can see it on the screen on the left as that gray area. After further study, the university felt that this was not the safest place to have a plaza in which people were to mingle. It's in between 2 very busy intersections, that being Florida Avenue and 6th Street. So we decided to move that open space amenity, and in its place, we're going to put what we think will be a great amenity for the community, a cultural center of approximately 60 to 80,000 square feet. We plan to study this concept much further and then come back to you all when we're ready for our stage 2 PUD approval on that. But the open space is now going to be behind the parcel 2 buildings and will be about approximately 20,000 square feet. We think this is going to be a great space for the community members to feel safe, but also to mingle and gather. It's meant to be a living garden, if you will, where you could take your kids and go for a stroll or have your lunch break there, if you will. This area is going to be known as Creativity Way, and it's going to also be an opportunity where Gallaudet can showcase what its history and some of its cutting edge research is all about. The other thing I would, here are some renderings of Creativity Way being activated, as you can see. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the university has submitted a campus plan amendment that is going to be heard on November 4th alongside JBG's PUD. This amendment is needed for several reasons. First is that we had to ship over some of our campus land to be included in parcel 2. We also had to relocate a service road that is called Tapscott Street, and that is now going to be in the middle of parcel 2. But also not directly related to the PUD, we are also announcing, it's more of an FYI, that we are building a memorial known currently as the Kendall Division II Memorial, which is a space that will commemorate the history of the Black Deaf student experience in Gallaudet and honor those who fought for inclusion at the university and the K-12 program. And then the last thing we plan to do in the application is ask for a 5-year extension on our campus plan to allow the university to really plan for a post-COVID world when hopefully we get there, but really to do a plan that works in a open space here and healthier environment. I'm happy to answer more questions on that at the end of the presentation, but thank you for your time again. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kirsten Murray of Olson Conde.
Hi, thanks a lot, Sam. Yes, I'm Kirsten Murray. I'm one of the architects working on Parcel 2, and I wanted to talk just a little bit about this development, this proposal. We'll be able to tell when we look at some future slides. These parcels are very much a mixing zone between Gallaudet University's campus and the Union Market district. And as such, we're really looking to design influences from both places, both from the university. Some of those pictures are on the right, where we see both contemporary and traditional architecture, which utilizes a lot of brick tones, slate and charcoal tones, and some interesting patterns and geometries and materiality. And then the Union Market parcels, which have a lot of really hardworking buildings in that market history. So we're looking to draw from languages of both parcels of the site. This particular project, the entire project will be designed to incorporate deaf space design standards, which are very rich and numerous, but at the urban design scale where we might see them in the neighborhood, it really is mostly apparent in terms of visual accessibility, creating transparent daylight conditions, and then in the visual cadence or pattern and rhythm of the facades, the window treatments, and the architectural elements. This is a rendering. We're showing several renderings. This is seen the 3 buildings at this seen from the southwest corner of 6th Street. These 2 southern buildings are connected with a bridge, and they really take on, as you can see, the warm tones of brick from the campus. There is natural sort of red brick here, as well as weathered steel, which has a very similar warm, rich color, and we think ties in nicely with the university. There are also some, this is a photograph showing the pedestrian connection between these 2 buildings. This is, we're creating a very active pedestrian shopping zone. And as Sam talked about, a pedestrian passage that goes through, several pedestrian passages that go into the campus and create, again, a really active pedestrian-oriented zone. The north building is a slightly different articulation to provide some variety on the street facades, but it really draws from a little bit more from some of the language, the industrial formwork and framework of the market district, and utilizes dark brick and some other dark, warm charcoal metal finishes in its articulation. In terms of scale, as you can see, these buildings, the 3 that you see closest to you, that is the Parcel 2. These buildings have a very similar scale to the campus buildings, and in fact, drop the scale as you get closer to campus at those lower podium level masses. That is actually Gallaudet University's space that they'll be using for a variety of educational and R&D sort of public-facing uses, and that is the location of Creativity Way, as Sam described earlier. So you can see what we're calling the green fingers, which is the pedestrian-oriented landscape passageways that connect the open spaces of the campus to the pedestrian street network of 6th Street and the Union District, Market District. Yeah, great, thanks. I'm passing to Lucas.
All right, thanks,
Parcel
Kirsten.
3.
All right, my name is Lucas Posada. I'm also an architect, and my office is working on the Parcel 3 building directly across 6th Street from Parcel 2. So as you can see, we jump in scale as we move toward the Market District. And so Parcel 3 is trying to build on a lot of those concepts that Kirsten was talking about for Parcel 2, but also address some of the changes in scale by helping to break that down. So if you go to the next slide, please. So what you're seeing here on the left is an image that that is toward the university side, and on the right, there's an image that's more toward the market side. So first of all, in terms of massing, we're trying to break down that scale so that we don't just have one large building, but we're breaking that up into a few different bars, and we're connecting that with an iconic bridge that you see on the right-hand side. And then in terms of materiality, we're also building on that concept that was described as part of parcel 2, where on the left-hand image, that's more towards the university side, we're using more of the earthier brick materials with metal as an accent. And then towards the market side, we're using more of a primarily metal facade with brick as an accent. Also just want to point out that there are 2 levels of parking below grade, one of which will be publicly accessible to the public. This slide shows a little bit more zoomed into the project so that you can see what the pedestrian experience is like. That's been a big focus of the design of this project, again, in that sense of breaking down the scale. So we've really focused on the design of those first 2 floors and putting that pedestrian experience at the forefront, providing a human scale, and also creating a sense of openness and the ability to move through in a sort of publicly accessible open space type of format, which are the streets. So the image on the right shows right in the center of the project in Tapscott Street, which bisects parcel 3, and it will be a heavily active retail-focused street with seating areas, tables and chairs, and a cafe zone. And then in the corner there of the right-hand image, you see a passageway or a gallery that connects you to Neal Place at the north side of the project, which will be primarily a pedestrian-oriented street. So the integration of the landscaping, both in the architecture, but also as part of the site design, the texture, the integration of art, that's all something that's been very important to the design of the buildings. So that's a great transition to our landscape architect, Zenobia, who will describe that strategy.
Thank you, Lucas. So as I am Zenobia Meckley, I'm a landscape architect at Future Green Studio, and I'll walk you through the landscape here at the project. We're looking here at a kind of zoomed out plan of the overall project. And you can see, as has been mentioned, it's a very pedestrian focused plan with a series of publicly accessible open spaces and pedestrian corridors. As was mentioned, Tapscott Street has been realigned and extends through parcel 3 across to 5th Street. This kind of series of pedestrian connections and the green fingers that Kirsten mentioned are all designed to create greater connectivity between the campus and the adjacent neighborhood. Next slide, please. So zooming into 6th Street, you can see we're proposing generous tree canopy cover and a series of lush plantings to really create a welcoming and comfortable pedestrian realm. You can see here on the east side of 6th Street, the buffered bike lane that's separated from the pedestrian zone through a series of plantings and seating areas. And then you can see at Tapscott Street there and extending across Neal Place, we're proposing a raised crossing that will kind of focus crossing and increase and enhance safety as you move across this larger 6th Street. Next slide. So you can see in the section some depth space design principles at play. We've created really clearly demarcated circulation zones with clear sight lines. There are cues in the ground plane. You can see an example of that here at the door swing zone, which is labeled here as the tenant zone. So there's a change in texture and color to really indicate to look out for those door swings. You can also see here the sort of the lush planting, how that creates a nice buffer around the bike lane. Next section, or next slide. So zooming into one of the open spaces that are part of the plan, this is Neal Place. This will be a pedestrian-only plaza that will be activated through a series of plantings and furnishings and an updated ground plane. And this will serve both the existing Union Market program and ground floor retail that will be introduced at parcel 3. Next slide. And then another one of these open green spaces is the green finger that leads you from 6th Street down to campus and connects to Creativity Way, which Sam had described. This particular green finger is also pedestrian only, and is designed to be a very immersive, kind of lush experience. And we've incorporated areas, conversation eddies, where people can step off of the path and have signed conversations comfortably. Next slide. That concludes the landscape presentation. Thank you.
And so that concludes the presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And if we could, pull down the presentation, so I want to make sure everyone can see here. But let's see if we have any questions first from the commissioners. If there are questions from the public, if you could type those in the Q&A box, and we'll work our way through those questions as well. So commissioners, any questions from those of you on the commission?
Yeah, Sam, when we had the meeting, we had talked about affordable units, and during the presentation, you said that, was it 23 will be 80% AMI? Well, we want to know how many units will be in the whole project and how many will be affordable at 50% AMI and under.
So our current calculations are around 95 units as part of the affordable IZ set aside. Hang on, let me look at the exact number distribution between the affordability so I don't misspeak. So that comes to roughly 67 units at the 50% AMI level and 28 at the 80%.
Out of how many units?
I think we're around 830 right now.
A lot.
It's an 11.2% set aside.
What's the percentage?
11.2.
I had a question based on parking, since we are, with this current plan, effectively removing all of the parking of the Union Market District. Is there any plan to incorporate dedicated ride share, pickup and drop off points, delivery points for the businesses that will be impacted without having parking now, for takeout and delivery services? Will that have a designated area where they can use that to do that?
Yeah, if you don't, I'll actually pull up the screen again. Can you see this parking supply?
Mm-hmm.
It's a concern for many folks, and actually DC granted TIF funding to ensure that parking would never be an issue for this vibrant retail community that is really sprung up here. So actually the Batley, which is over on 4th Street where La Cosecha is, just delivered 204 public parking spaces in anticipation of our parcel going under construction. And then we are building another 156 as part of our project. So it'll be offline temporarily, but the public parking will come back once we're done. And once we break ground,
really quick, I think one of the key points here is we're talking about surface level direct access parking versus, going into a garage to pick up an order or drop people off or pick people up. And those are not the same, those are not the same thing. So is there any plan for surface level direct access, dedicated parking for pickup drop offs and takeout and delivery services in the plan currently?
Yes, for our projects, we have a lay-by pullover on 6th Street that'll be dedicated to drop off pickup.
Cool. Thank you so much.
All right. Any other questions from the commissioners?
Yes. I had a question. I heard a lot of architecture lingo and square footage and things like that. How did this overall affect the students and the payers, the tuition payers for Gallaudet University? Was this project discussed with like parents or people who who pay for tuition and housing at Gallaudet, that this development project was going to come apart and these students will be affected in some capacity? Not just the residents of this neighborhood?
I want to make sure I understood the question. So will this development impact the students at Gallaudet?
Yes.
Well,
what was the engagement with those students who will be impacted, I think?
Yes.
Will be the engagement. Well, the impact in Gallaudet's views are more on the positive side, because we are, you know, as the landholder to this partnership, we are getting ground rent payment that's going to university operations. Second to that is that Gallaudet chose JBG as its development partner, largely because they had made a commitment to advance our students' education in the form of internships and potential job programs. And then there was a mention of 5,000 square feet being set aside for deaf and hard of hearing businesses. Our hope is that as our students get used to this new development, that there will be entrepreneurial and employment opportunities for them. As far as impact on the living and residents of the students, Gallaudet is making a commitment to, for at least the first 2 years that you enroll at Gallaudet, we want you to live on campus. And that's largely so that you can become part of the Gallaudet community. You can learn your ASL. You can also, for many of our students, it's the first time being with deaf peers. And so to really enjoy that. So I don't foresee any major impact to the residential situation for Gallaudet students. But I hope I'm answering your question.
We have, yeah, I can add a little more. We did do focus groups with some of the students sort of at the inception of the design as well. So we've engaged students, faculty, and staff as part of focus groups and interviews as we were sort of ideating on how best to design and implement the project. So that was done. And then we've also hired a deaf space design consultant who is actually a Gallaudet alumni. So he can speak to the students' experience and alumni experience as well.
Thank you.
And then we don't have much time for questions from the public, but I do want to get to at least 1 or 2 questions from the public. One was from Matal Lyons Warren, 95 affordable units out of how many in total? So if you could just remind us of what that number is. And do you know what percentage of the units are affordable units?
Yep. I think we covered this earlier, but it comes out to 11.2% of the set aside.
Okay. And that's out of a total how many units?
I think we're at 830 right now, Christine, if that's right.
Right, and so about 95 will be set aside as affordable. And I'll also just note that 70% of the affordable units will be at the 50% MFI level.
Thank you. And Ryan Linehan says, are there any upgrades being done to the park? I thought that was proposed at your first presentation.
No, I remember, Ryan, we've been trying to get the Parks Department to collaborate with us, and we've had lots of meetings. Unfortunately, we don't control the park itself. That's district property, but we've been trying to coordinate with them to let them know our timeline and our scope so that they could redevelop in conjunction with our project, and so that it really becomes a more cohesive place. I think the last time we spoke to them was with you on the line, and then with COVID, they kind of scattered. So we can pick up that engagement again and just remind them of our timeline, and hopefully they, give them a little nudge in the right direction to prioritize this location as part of their projects. But unfortunately, we can't control the park redevelopment, but we are trying, because I think it would be a benefit to everyone involved, and it would be a great addition to the project.
Okay, and then that one last question, which I really am gonna combine a few folks' questions, and then Kevin, I guess we'll pick up your question on Thursday at the Zoning and Development Committee meeting. But from Desiree Williams and Francis Rogers, will 6th Street be open to traffic? In addition, Desiree Williams asks, what's the estimated time frame for this project? What streets will be affected during this project? for commuters? And is there a plan to limit traffic congestion? So a lot of questions about traffic specifically on 6th Street.
That's a great question. We definitely should have given you a timeline estimate. So first, yes, traffic, there'll be one lane each way on 6th Street, which is sort of what it is today. The parts that will be closed as part of construction are just the parking lanes during construction, the parking lanes on 5th and 6th that are adjacent to our property. So traffic will still be able to move freely along 6th and 5th. The timeline is our hearings are in November, and it's typically, I mean, say we're going to aim to break ground as soon as we get our final approvals. So that's putting us likely somewhere around 2025 to be final delivery and build out. And we'll be under construction in 23 and 24.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. And then I think Kevin's going to drop the information on the Zoning and Development Committee meeting for those who are interested in attending. So those are all the questions we have time for right now. There will be additional review and discussion and opportunity to give feedback if you're a member of the community, but we do want to stay on schedule with our agenda. So thank you all so much for your presentation. And constituents, I'm sure there will be not only just the Zoning and Development Committee, but inboxes are always open for your commissioners if you have questions or want to give additional feedback. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So next up, we'll hear from Jacques Patterson.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. And thank you for allowing me to come before the commission at 5D today. And it's really nice to be here. Again, I'm Jacques Patterson. I'm the Chief Community Engagement and Growth Officer for Kipp DC, which is basically a big fancy name that says I do all the community work for Kipp DC for our whole entire network. We are a network of charter schools that has basically 20 schools in 8 locations, with 2 in your ward, in Ward 5, and I think both of them are in your particular commission. I think Webb is also still in D. I'm not sure where the lines are, but the Webb campus and the KCP, Kipp College Prep, are in your commission. And so I'm the person who kind of deals with the community, been doing it for the last 3 years, so to speak. I was a former ANC. I live in Ward 8. So definitely appreciate all the work that you guys do day in and day out, and all those calls that you guys get, what that's like. So I appreciate that and allowing me to come. Wanted to give you an update, so to speak. I was asked to come and give you an update because Kipp did start school earlier than any other LEA in the city. We started approximately 2 weeks prior to DCPS schools. And unfortunately, as you've probably read and heard, we had an incident with a child that, a 9th grader, who lost his life in front of the school on Brentwood on the 3rd day of actual school after orientation. And I wanted to give a little background because a lot of people didn't have the background on that. During the COVID time that they were on virtual learning, a lot of kids throughout the whole system, not just Kipp, but throughout DCPS, because I am also the at-large State Board of Education representative. So I wear that hat as well. A lot of kids basically were having a lot of things going on social media. So you have 2 kids that are from basically one from Ward 8, one from Ward 5. They have been beefing for quite some time during that period of time that they were out of school virtually. They knew each other, had some incidents prior to, and then they come to school and they finally see each other in person. And all the stuff that's being said on social media can kind of come to a head at the school. So the first day of school, there were some words that were passed. Second day, there was a little scuffle or something that happened. And then the 3rd day, as you saw in the paper, resulted in the 9th grader losing his life to the 11th grader, so to speak. And actually, to give you some context on that as well, the 9th grader is a big guy. He was a big guy. He boxed and those type of things. And he people knew he knew how to throw his hands, as we say in communities and stuff like that. So the 11th grader felt threatened. He brought a knife to school, secured it off campus in the weeds. On Wednesday, when that argument ensued, he went and retrieved a knife. So when the fight happened, it happened very quickly during our dismissal time. And within a few seconds, it went from 2 kids arguing to 1 laying on the ground. So that is the incident. Now, what has happened since that incident has happened? Okay, we took kids out of school at that particular time. We have brought them back gradually, grade level by grade level, starting last week. Well, first we brought in 9th graders, and then the next day we brought in 10th and 11th, and then we brought in 12th graders. So all our kids are now back in school, and they are doing well. We've had no other incidents since then. We have also had numerous meetings with the MPD. We have redone our whole dismissal process of how we release children. And some of it came to be that on Brentwood, all the kids accumulate right there at that new bus stop. During the time that they were out of school, that's when the bike lane and the bus lane was instituted there on Brentwood. So when they released on that day, as parents, it used to be they would line up and pick their children up where the bike lane currently is. And it kind of had a nice little smooth kind of movement to it. Well, when you take that away and all that parking and that smooth release time of kids, like my parent shows up, I jump in a car, we go down Brentwood and we're gone. Now you can't park there. There's a lot of instances. So kids were accumulated there. We have talked to DDOT about parking and other things that's happening there. So we are addressing that as well. We also talked to Mr. Cody Wynn, who is a violent interrupter in the community. He has had several conversations with our principal. We will be bringing in Growing Up, which is a violent interruption group, to work with our principal and with other deans of different grades to try to be very proactive in what's happening with our kids. We do know that there are incidences basically that travel from ward to ward and throughout the city. I'm sure you guys have heard the term safe passage. It's something that I personally have been working on for 3 years since we lost a student at the NOMA station. My first month of coming on to Kipp DC, that was June of 2018, and we've been working with them. So we have MPD officers, we have safe passage individuals, but basically it comes to how they release and getting in front of incidences that occur. And that's something that we're working on right now. We have multiple safety plans. We now have sweeps of the perimeter that extend all the way across the street. We also are still ushering students down to the NOMA station. We brought in buses that actually take some kids to other metro stops, so that kids where there's incidences that we can kind of like move them away from if that incident is so that happens. So we take kids now, we have buses that we pay for that takes kids all the way to the Minnesota in Ward 7 Avenue, a metro stop, and to Anacostia. They can get on that particular bus, a yellow bus, as we used to call them back in the day, the cheese bus. You can get on the yellow bus and you can go all the way without any interruption or get into the metro system, so to speak. And that's what we're seeing a lot of incidences. It happens throughout the whole city. It's not just unique to Ward 5. Is kids get into the metro system and things happen. They have cell phones, that's how they communicate. They actually kind of like map out where they're gonna fight. And they will tell you they're going to meet somewhere, and that's where fights happen. So we're trying to get on top of those. There's a lot of things that are coming into play, both from the city, from the council, and from the deputy mayor's office, who has a safe passage officer, so to speak, that we're working with. So that's kind of where we are. For the most part, I think Kipp is a great school. We have great people that work there. It's just being able to be proactive to kids that are a lot smarter now in their technology of how they go about having fights and getting ahead of those. And that's what we found out coming out of COVID. I think everybody really focused on saying, okay, we want the school to be safe in the sense of COVID and testing and all the machinery and stuff like that. And we were so focused on that. A lot of people, and this is school-wide, just forgot about the personal aspects of kids coming back for the first time after 18 months of being separated, and then them all coming back, and what does that look like? They knew they had to get shots or whatever the case may be, but they didn't really look at the social emotional aspects of kids who are high school students, some of them brand new high school students. What does it look like to come back into a school that has 800 students and you guys are all mixed together and you haven't seen each other literally in 18 months in that type of setting. So a lot of things are going on that we're making sure that we get in front of. Different groups are getting counseling, and we're doing a lot of mentoring at this particular time, but that's where we are. And so wanted to give you guys that update, and then just say that I'll come to any meeting that you guys would like me to, and take any questions that you may have.
Well, we appreciate that update. Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry to hear about, what transpired. So first up, we'll hear from commissioners if there are any questions from commissioners for Mr. Patterson. And then if there are any questions from the public, if you could type those in the Q&A box or use the raise hand feature to ask your question. And I do see Commissioner Rhodes, you're first up.
Thanks for coming, Mr. Patterson. First, I want to ask, did you check or did DDOT give you a timeline on getting that parking, we call it the parking line? How long is that going to take to get fixed?
They haven't given us a definite date as far as that's going to be fixed. We know that because of how they configured that, it's just such a hazard for us. When you have 800 students that release in about 15 minutes intervals that we have them at currently, they just said that it's currently under review and that they appreciate the support that has been given, and they're trying to change it. That's what I have as of an update right now. And that letter was received last week because, we did it right after that. So it took about another week or so for them to respond. We had the support of the council member and his office, Mr. Silas Grant, and individuals who came out and looked at it and also supported us as well. So we're hoping in the next couple of weeks that we'll know exactly that date, and I'm happy to come back next month and just, not take too much time, but just to tell you where we are. Okay.
We appreciate it.
Yes,
Very
ma'am.
much appreciated. Thank you. And I do believe I see one question here.
I have a question, Chair.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Mr. Patterson, thank you for joining us today to discuss the sad situation that occurred over here. I have a question.
Sure.
We obviously would understand that the community would be outraged at what happened, but what are some of the things that parents did in response to the situation at the school? What were ways that they supported the school after this kind of situation? What are some other ways that the community can be a little more involved or engaged on these kind of situations that you see?
So I really truly appreciate that question. Parents have been really responsive. First, they, of course, you go through stages whenever something of that's that horrific that happens, especially on the third or first official day of school. So first thing that we had was a town hall with parents as a school community, and sat down and talked to parents and allowed them to ask us questions. They wanted, of course, know about safety measures that we had in place and which ones we will be bringing into place. But then we had a very positive response from a lot of parents who said, basically, we have a principal who's in her second year and her first year was COVID. So this is her first year in person, but really supporting her. Her name is Stephanie Young, and I would request the same from you guys as ANC. Lovely principal. She's been an assistant principal. She's been around for quite some time, but they really said, okay, so how can we help with the children and stuff like that? So we do have kind of like a parent advisory council that is also helping. They are very much into the planning of how our safety measures are being done. So we're kind of putting them together with a consultant, but then they're approving those as well to make sure that they fit very well. But I would say to your direct question is the parents have been the most helpful. And in a positive way, so wrapping their arms around Principal Young and saying, okay, we're here for you. No other child, we don't want to lose another child to incidents like this. And then they're also going to be working with Mr. Nguyen as well to try to make sure that, no child is targeted. We don't want any child profiled, but we also want to be able to understand what your child is doing and to give them an avenue where they're saying, like, we're seeing this, and we don't want anything to happen to our child to be targeted again, but we're seeing this type of social media from our child. And they're giving us a heads up. They're being proactive and being part of our safety plan, because we know if those parents are helping us in monitoring their child's activities when they're away from us, we'll have less activity coming into the school that happens outside the school. So I would say they have been very helpful, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, we do have one question from the public, and then we'll go ahead and move on to voting items. Desiree Williams asks, did the school offer grief counseling to students and community?
Yes, ma'am. So in-house, we have 40 mental health practitioners that all came to bear all at that one institution. Although they were deployed throughout our whole network, they all concentrated on that community as a whole. Then we work with DBH, Department of Mental Health, Behavioral Health, to also bring in counseling. And then we also offered support to the individual parents that this happened. Because at the end of the day, however we want to look at it, there were two families that were affected. One that lost a child and one that lost a child to incarceration. So we've been working with them as well. And we have provided mental health for them. And then we also through DBH have offered the community. A lot of times when people think about it, they think about the school and they think about the family. But we have communities that experience a lot of trauma, unfortunately, in our city. So we've been offering trauma to communities, so to speak, where children come from, where they travel from each and every day. So the area in which this child came from that committed the act, we've been offering support. And then to Congress Park, which is in Ward 8, we've offered support as well. And we've done that through both, like I said, DBH and through the council members of both respective wards to provide mental health as well. And I think you have one more question if you wanted me to answer that was in the chat. I think, what was it?
Let's see. You might have sharper eyes than I do.
Okay.
So Skip Keats, and this will be the last question because we really do need to move forward.
Yes, ma'am.
How can the community help to ensure that this does not happen again, if such is possible? This question is coming from someone who does not have children, but one for whom such violence was unthinkable when he was in school.
So to that point, what I will say is this: our children are different. They're a lot different than when we were raised, okay? And I'll try to be as quick as I possibly can. So their social skills, and I have children that are younger. At this time, I have a 12 and a 10-year-old. Their social skills and ability to do conflict resolution is very minimal as opposed to what we used when we were able to do that. I put a lot of blame on social media because they're so much on their devices that they don't interact with each other as much. So they're de-escalation. So when you ask me that question, I say, if there's programs, we have numerous programs for the community because we welcome the community into Kipp DC, and that is my job, is to do so. There are many programs that you can become active in, and the more that we interact with our youth, the better they are. They really feel alienated from a lot of grownups and stuff like that, hence the reason you see the rebellion. So we do have opportunities for the community to come in and help in different areas as far as mentorship and other programs that we have. Even if you just want to say, okay, look, you guys are having a football game and we want it to be safe that night and we'll just come and be monitors at the football game. There are a lot of opportunities where the more grownups they see, the less likely this is going to happen.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Patterson. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I put my number and everything in the chat. So I know you have other questions, stuff like that. People may be typing them. They can reach me there and I'll make myself available.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we'll look forward to hearing from you next month. Okay, so we're going to move forward to the consent calendar. Just for those of you who might not be aware or are new to these meetings, basically, a consent calendar is a way to group non-controversial issues together so that we can vote on a single approval and then move forward in the agenda so that we can discuss other items in the community. And what happens here is that if any one commissioner objects to something being on the consent calendar, it then becomes a voting action. So does anyone object to any of the consent calendar items at this time? Okay, so I move, and I'll just brief discussion here from me. Just for those of you who are keeping track of the RPP and resident-only parking issues, we are working with DDOT to resolve those as quickly as possible. They have quite a huge backlog due to COVID, but we are sending this letter as a reminder since this particular request has expired in terms of the amount of time they have to respond. And so we'll continue to do that for other requests that have already been submitted to send reminders as those expire. Hopefully that won't be the case and they'll be completed on time. So I move that we accept all items listed on the consent calendar for approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you so much. Voting actions. So the first item on our voting actions is the FY 2022 annual budget. I did see one comment from the public. Thank you so much for that, which was really just a clarification on the printed materials comment there. So we're allotting about $500 for each single member of district, as well as $500 for the commission overall. So that's how you get the additional $500 that I'm very proud of constituents who were checking the math that closely, but that's where the other $500 goes. So do we have any comments, questions, or concerns from the commission on the budget? Okay. I move that we accept the budget for FY 2022 as currently published. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you so much. As a quick change to the bylaws, as we're trying to navigate this virtual world, and sometimes there are mayoral orders and sometimes those orders are changing. We still want to be able to maintain order at our meeting. And so we've added the ability for commissioners to vote on items at virtual meetings. And we're asking that as part of that, commissioners vote on camera. So it's not necessarily that you have to be on camera for the entire meeting. We understand people lose sound, they lose connections, whatever. But when you are voting on items, we're asking that commissioners be on camera for votes, just so we can see that it's really you, and I guess not a bot. So I move to support change to the bylaws to facilitate virtual meetings. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have that as well. And then we have a resolution from Commissioner Rose. Commissioner Rose, if you want to tell us what's in that resolution that you're presenting.
Basically, the resolution is for Lewis Crowe Park. We want some positive activation for this park. That's why I asked Reginald Black about the porta potties. We already have gardening there at the park, and this is just, we already have spoken with Edens. They promised $25,000 for renovations, and we want to get that activated as well. So that's about it. We just want some positive growth at the park. That's on the corner of Mount Olivet and West Virginia Avenue.
Any discussion from the commission on that? Are there dogs? Does your dog have some?
Oh yeah, we want to do a dog park there, and just possibly a little section in the corner where the dogs can come together and the residents can come together as well and mingle and watch their dogs do what they do. And also, because 5D don't have a dog park at all. So this will be the first dog park in 5D.
Yeah, that's very true. And hopefully it would help with some of the management of the dog droppings that are in other parts.
So I want to just echo what Commissioner Rose has shared. We had a community meeting a few weeks, I want to say probably 3-4 weeks ago, and we were getting feedback in terms of the park. And I do support what Commissioner Rhodes has said. It would be nice to make better use of the park, especially knowing that there's a need for certain things such as public restrooms, a dog park, as many residents have stated in the past in 5D. Right there on that section of Mount Olivet that touches Trinidad and Ivy City.
Yep.
It's a bit neglected by a lot of resources and agencies that are available in DC, and we're trying to do our best just to make a better light of those situations that we're facing. So public restrooms would be great because we're having a lot of issues with people just using the restroom on properties that are not theirs and in public, and it's just not the dogs that are doing that. So we would like to see this space used a little bit better, and we've been speaking to some agencies and other offices in terms of collaborating on this effort. So we know it's going to be a big one. So we'll always support any community engagement to work on this project.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Yeah.
So, did you want me to make?
Yes, go ahead, make your motion.
I motion.
You move.
I move. I move to pass this resolution for Lewis Crowe Park.
And I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much, Commissioner Rhodes. And I think we're right back to you for another resolution on Marcelino's requesting a stipulated license.
Oh yes, this is just a restaurant it's a restaurant in Union Market, and they just need a stipulated license for alcohol until their permanent one comes through. They're in the Union Market, I guess the little trailer where all the restaurants is. So they will already have security on site, and their hours will be appropriate.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for saying that, because I think oftentimes people don't realize what kind of information we're looking for when we approve a stipulated license, and that's exactly it. Do you have a security plan? Do you have appropriate hours? Let's go ahead and you can move.
I'll move to allow Marcelino's to have a stipulated liquor license until their permanent ones come through.
Okay, and I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you so much. Okay, so now here comes the part you have all been waiting for. My goodness, y'all have been blowing up the Q&A. Community feedback and questions. So I do see that we already have a few items ready to go in the Q&A, but if you are a member of the community, you have a question, you're looking for an answer, you have an announcement about something that's going on, some community event or other, now is your time to shine. And so we're going to start working our way through those now. First up, we have John Healy, who says, please provide an update on any efforts to improve safety for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers along Blatensburg Road and 17th Street Northeast. So I believe that question would go to my colleague, Commissioner Elmore. And I'll just repeat that again from John Healy, is looking for an update on the traffic safety assessment from Blatensburg and 17th Street.
Good evening. It is in progress. Our previous Department of Transportation POC has been out. We do have someone stepping in. We did receive an email from the commission. So I did receive an email from our point of contact with DDOT yesterday in reference to traffic safety assessments and getting speed cameras and speed bumps. And that's a progress. That's a project that we're working through. As you do know, the speed camera was installed on 17th and L. That was the first initiative for the project. However, it's been vandalized 4 times since it's been installed. So there's some hesitation with moving other safety protocols at this moment, because we're trying to figure out other protocols in order to keep that camera from being vandalized before we can move forward with other projects. But it is in the pipeline, I promise you.
Okay, thank you for that. From Kendall Doyle, did you want to add to that?
Yeah,
and
I'd
you're
like to
our,
add
and
to
just so people are aware, you're our transportation committee chairperson.
About a month ago, DDOT put up a notice of intent on their website that they are planning to do sort of a preliminary study of Blatensburg Road in our ANC. It doesn't say that they're looking to do anything in particular. It just sounds like they're trying to study to see what their options are. I tried to look just now to get a better sense of what the notice of intent is calling for, but their website is down. But I'll have a better idea once they get their website back up. It's been down for a few days, but that is something long-term in the pipeline.
All right, thank you for that. Next question we have is from Kendall Doyle. Can we get more public trash cans in Ivy City as well? We could use some outside the park due to high foot traffic. So Commissioner Rhodes, if you want to respond to that one on trash cans in Ivy City.
Yeah, hey Kendall, we can work on that. I should have added it to the resolution, but we can work on that through DPW.
Okay, and so if you just share your email, just so if you'll just speak it out so folks can get in touch with you.
I can put it in the chat.
Okay, great. All right, Indira Prasad says, what can we do about the big developers coming into the community? My solar panels are being blocked, privacy and backyard gone, and parking spaces in front are being taken. So I will take part of this question and really say that, I think in general, we have seen a lot of development, and we've seen development from some developers who really just are not necessarily, behaving in the best way. They're not trying to follow rules. They're not trying to be cooperative with the neighbors next door, and the behavior isn't always great. And so if you're in one of those situations, I would encourage you to reach out to your individual commissioner to discuss the details, because you do have options. So for instance, if your solar panels are being blocked, I believe the minimum that they're allowed, or they can't go more than 5% of blocking your solar panels. So you do have things items where you can push back, but it really depends on the specifics of your situation. And we do also have now a zoning and development committee that's been very active in trying to make sure that neighbors are aware of what your options are. If you are faced in a situation where you feel like they're the big guy, you're the little guy, and you're getting, pushed around or taken advantage of in some way, they're really doing a lot of work to try and help educate neighbors on, what you need to do and how to speak up for yourself. So please get in contact with your direct ANC commissioner so that they can be aware of your situation. Skip Keats says, what is the street address of the new dog park? So that's you, Commissioner Rhodes.
Skip, we don't have a dog park yet. We just did a resolution because we want a dog park, but it will hopefully sometime soon. We're working to have it at the Lewis Crowe Park that's at the corner of West Virginia Avenue and Mount Olivet Road.
All right, thank you for that. And then back to Mr. or Miss, I'm not sure, Prasad. I don't read out, as a general rule, people's addresses at the public meetings. I just don't feel like it's a good practice. But if you will use ancfinder.org and type in your address, it will tell you the name of your ANC commissioner. So Matal Lyons Warren says, a few months ago, we had DPW on the ANC call and spoke about illegal dumping. The alley behind Queen and Penn has had consistent dumping for months. This has also led to an increase in rats, some of which are through my neighbor's brake line, ate through my neighbor's brake lines, I think is what you meant to type. What resources can DPW provide? And this is the alley behind Queen and Penn. I'll just briefly say that, you know, ANC 5D overall has had challenges dealing with DPW. We are just completely under-resourced in all of Ward 5 right now with only 2 sweep inspectors for the entire ward. Other inspectors have 5 and 6, you know, sweep inspectors, and we're down to 2 right now. You know, we did have, you know, some who passed away and some who left the agency. And so that's been a real challenge for us as well as DPW. With that said, I will say that we're still working to address a lot of these issues. Your alley is not the only alley where there have been dumping concerns. And we're working with the highest levels of management with DPW to get additional resources into our ward. And then Queen and Penn, that's right near the line, so I'm not sure who has that one.
That's me.
Okay.
Hi, Mital, glad to see you here. I spoke with DPW. Nokum has put me in charge with one of the managers. I asked him about the possibility of doing like a regular once a week cleanup of that alley because it is a continuous problem. And he straight up told me that there are no resources to do that. And if he said yes here, it would create a bad precedent. If you want to pass, if you know the owner's contact information of that building,
Commissioner Kopp, we're having some difficulty hearing you.
Very strongly worded email or give them a call because I don't have reached out to them directly yet. So contact information, feel free to pass it along to me and I will reach out to them because I don't think I've done that yet.
Okay, thank you. And from Skip Keats, so we'll do probably 3 more questions here. Skip Keats says, as for the public facilities, I have seen people relieving themselves in public at the Starburst Plaza and its near environs. Should some public facilities be placed there? And that request has been submitted to help address that issue as well. So that's a quick answer, and we'll see how the city responds. Desiree Williams, are we still in our summer active policing in Ward 5? Is it possible to maintain the increased police in the community given the Starburst challenge? I was followed on my morning jog. So right now, the Summer Crime Initiative, Summer Crime Prevention Initiative is coming to a close. But what I would say is that there is a possibility for a fall crime prevention initiative, as the officer mentioned earlier in the meeting, and the commission would certainly support our inclusion in that. That'll probably be worked out in the next few weeks, but they'll certainly get a letter of support from us, you know, as if that opportunity arises. Okay, Jamal Muhammad says, why has the issue of removing all parking on the 1900 block of West Virginia Avenue not on the agenda, and who knew that this was going to happen? Because DDOT admitted that they did not do any engagement with the residents. We are having a huge protest on the 21st at the 1900 block at 11 a.m. And so this is on the West Virginia Avenue parking situation. This affects a couple of SMDs, so I don't know which commissioner wants to speak to that. I will just say that I know that, you know, this has been a hot topic. Typically at meetings, if we don't have an action item on something to advise an agency on at the time, then we don't necessarily have an agenda item just to discuss that. But we do have this portion of the meeting so that residents can bring up topics for discussion. So that's typically how that works. And then I don't know which one of the commissioners wants to address that first.
I can address it. It's on the Ivy City side of West Virginia. DDOT took away all of the parking for the protected bike lanes, which in the plans, they weren't supposed to take all of the parking away. So this is an ongoing issue between the residents and DDOT. DDOT did not address or did not engage with the community properly. And so all of this will be addressed when we meet with DDOT.
Okay, and then can you share with residents if there's a next meeting scheduled to meet with DDOT?
We're in communications with DDOT and they have not scheduled a meeting yet.
If residents wanted to attend, you'll be sending out, I guess, an email communication to let people know when that meeting will be.
I will.
All right, and then this is another question on the West Virginia Avenue bike lane. Any update on when the next phase of the West Virginia bike lane will be completed? This has been discussed for a long time and is not new information from Reed May.
Greg sent out an email actually today to the commissioners with the finalized plans. Basically, the timeline looks like end of the month, early next month, depends on their schedule, but they have everything submitted for orders and signage, paint, all that kind of stuff. And I just want to reiterate that this is not new in any way, shape, or form. This is, DDOT did do engagement with residents. Not everybody got to it. I mean, that's part of it, but DDOT has been working on this for over 10 years, so it's not new at all.
Just to clarify, the engagement was years ago. So it seems like the engagement obviously wasn't with the full community. So just to clarify that.
I wouldn't say that that's accurate at all, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
I would say it's accurate if not everyone knew about it. That have been there for generations.
Okay, and then so we'll hear more on that about the planning for West Virginia Avenue and the bike lane. I know there's been a lot of back and forth on that issue. I'll say this. I do know that there were some engagements years ago. I think the question that people are having or should have is about the quality of the engagements. But I think it's also important for people to understand that these processes do happen over a very long time frame. And so, if they started 10 years ago and then you moved here 8 years ago, or, whatever, in whatever time frame, a lot of that's been missed. So I don't see anything wrong with going back now and making sure that people are informed about what's happening. But that's just, it's something that has been in the planning for a very long time. It's just a matter of making sure that people are aware of it. Okay, Q&A. Allison Agwu says, how can we engage more with the commission about this? The plans implemented were different than what was presented. And so this is really kind of the underlying issue that I've been hearing from some people. We really need help in addressing this public safety issue. And so I think that's the question. It's not that, no engagement took place. It's that are the plans now significantly different from the plans that were submitted to the ANC, that were reviewed by the community at that time? And then was there any subsequent engagement about the changes to those plans? And so Commissioner Rhodes, I know that you've spoken to Dr. Agwu about that a lot. And so if you have any commentary on future engagements,
we'll just be, collaborating with DDOT, and the last I heard, they will be putting a couple of parking spaces back. I'm just not sure about that timeline.
Okay, thank you. And then just to note, you already did say earlier that you would be communicating you know, with the community about upcoming meeting.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
All of us will be notified.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't see anything else in the Q&A. Okay. I do see one new person here, Anna Roblin. If this is also on West Virginia Avenue, I think we're going to have to stop it there. And so we can go ahead and move on to other updates from the commission. Okay, you want to discuss Xfinity. All right, so Bosco, if you can go ahead and let Ms. Roblin ask her question about Xfinity.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I had Xfinity, and me and other people in my building have had bad service. It goes in and out. It's really unreliable. And then I found out that there's a local company called DC Access, and I really wanted it because they, you know, it's a local company, and Xfinity has a bad reputation in a lot of ways. And what I tried to get it, but the problem is they said they can't give it to me because they need to have a building in my neighborhood that's 4 or 5 stories high to put a piece of equipment on. Otherwise, that's close enough to me. Otherwise, they can't give me service. So I was just like hoping to get some help. Like we support a local company instead of a company like Xfinity that has a bad reputation, to try to get a building that they can use in our neighborhoods, you know, so that we can get DC access. It has to be 4 or 5 stories high.
Yeah, and DC Access is also a DC government initiative. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. That's been an issue throughout several of our communities. We have, as a commission, supported it because they provide very low cost or sometimes free internet to people who are in need of that, to, you know, DC Access, you know, and so what I would suggest is, because I don't want people to kind of shout out, you know, if you want to just share your 100 block, feel free to do that, but not your full address. And then we can work together with your single member district commissioner to help advocate for a particular location.
Yeah, it's Mr. Hoffman, exactly. I live at the corner of Florida and West Virginia.
Yeah, I will look into that. I'm not sure how many buildings we really have in that vicinity, but maybe if it's further down the block, if that's acceptable. I know there's a few apartment buildings that are that tall.
Yeah, I don't know how close it has to be. I should have asked.
Okay, well, you guys can work out the details and find an appropriate location, hopefully. And I'll just comment that sometimes lamp posts, you know, street lamp posts on a hill have been an option as well. So thank you for that question. And then I have one last question on another topic from Azra Ahmad. Are there any plans to bring express buses on Blatensburg Road that will connect the Carver Langston to Union Station or Noma Gallaudet Station? And so there are not currently plans to do that. We have submitted suggestions that do something very similar to that in the past, especially when the mayor had that initiative around expanding circulator service. You know, we would certainly be in support of that and continue to push that idea. I know Commissioner Cobb is in charge of our transportation committee, so I'm sure he'll take that idea back for a review on different ways that we can continue to promote that. Okay, all right. Thank you so much to everyone for the public comment section. I want to go ahead and try to wrap us up here. Let's move forward to commissioner reports. So if you have a report from your single member district, upcoming meetings or things that people need to know about, this is your time. 5D01.
I will be posting a SMD meeting for the end of this month. I'll be sending it out in an email. Everyone is getting my emails. I'm posting information as much as I can. We are still having illegal dumping on Gallaudet, and we need those cameras from DPW so that we can find out what's going on there. Also, we had a community cleanup this Saturday, and that went well. And we just want to just keep it up. We want to keep our community clean, and we just want to build up our community versus having a lot of things that people are just pissed off about. So just contact me at 5D01@anc.dc.gov if you have any questions or concerns. But look out for my newsletter.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Rhodes. 5D02.
Not a lot of updates on my end. We did get some people to walk around the neighborhood recently just to check on some issues that we've been having, but they've been properly handled by the proper agencies. Big shout out to the constituents that are active, not just through social media, but through email and phone by reaching out with any issues in our end of Mount Olivet and Trinidad. There's a potential mural project coming on the Denny's property in the co-op building there, so be on the lookout for that. If there's any youth that are artistically inclined that are interested in this project, we're going to be mentoring them with more experienced artists. So if you have any youth that are interested in kind of getting more involved in that kind of field and community, please reach out to me. At the same time, we have some community events and a potential outreach for Civic Association for Mount Olivet. So that's in the works. So feel free to reach out to me at 5D02@anc.dc.gov. Was that the right email? Or 202-841-9383 if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. And 5D03.
Hello. Just a couple of announcements. For those who are on the bridge, we did have 2 successful events over the summer. We had the 19th and L community event where we had the snow cones and the food giveaways and book bags and things like that. We also did another one on 18th and M Street that was very successful in conjunction with the M Street Day. It was another great collaboration with the Cure the Streets, who it was previously notified on the meeting, made an announcement that they've been very, very active in with their initiatives in the community. I am working on the open area at 19L to convert that into a park/dog park as well. I've been very, very proactive working with DC Landscape and other DC agencies, trying to find out the builders, the developers, who owns the land, who can make decisions for the land. So that is a project that's up and coming. I did previously state about the vandalism of the camera on 17th and L Street. Those tickets have been put in. For those constituents in my SMD, I do a walkthrough of the neighborhood once a week. And typically the issues and the problems that you're having in the neighborhood, I see them, the tickets are already submitted, but I do appreciate the extra initiatives of the constituents sending me the problems in the neighborhood. But most of the time, I will say 95% of the time, I already know what those problems is, and I am working with particular agencies. But I do want to address one important issue, and I'm glad that hopefully I have a lot of my SMD constituents on street cleaning. I've been working with DPW with street cleaning. This has been an long-going issue since the COVID pandemic. if 80% of the parked cars are in any specific street due to people teleworking and working from home, they will not street clean that day. If everyone in the neighborhood and all SMDs and in the entire 5D, if we do the neighborly thing of just cleaning up in front of our doors and our streets and our corners, it wouldn't be as a mass initiative for DPW to send street cleanings. So we just take the small effort and cleaning up in front of our own doors. It will help with the street cleaning because there's actually nowhere for the cars to go for street cleaning for those who telework and are home or unemployed due to the COVID pandemic. So hopefully that will help out with some of the rodent issues and the vermin issues in the trash. That's
Amen.
Thank you for that. So I'm the commissioner for 5D05, just to the south of Commissioner Elmore. And we've been having some very similar challenges as well. And I'll just echo her sentiments about, when you can clean up in front of your house. I know everyone's not physically able, to do that. But, if you can do that, if you can do that for some of the seniors or people, on your block who need some additional help, please do that. Also move your cars when you can, because there are sometimes when you just can't move your cars, like park on the other side of the street and let's get the street cleaning done. In terms of illegal dumping, we have had ongoing issues at this point for well over a year on that alley between H Street and H Place. We have done repeated cleanings. We've trimmed back the trees. And then now at this point, I have been successful in getting DPW to install a camera for illegal dumping at that location. So anyone who is caught on camera doing illegal dumping in that alley, you will get a fine. The neighbors who can help with that, here's how you can help. If you see an item that was illegally dumped, if you'll make a 311 complaint and give the approximate time when you saw the item, that will help narrow down the window so that they can address that issue more quickly. If you don't see your ticket being addressed or you see comments that don't look great in the 311 feedback that you're getting, make sure that you send me the 311 number at 5D05@anc.dc.gov. We worked really hard to get that camera there. I've talked to every level of DPW about this to make that happen. And so let's make the best use of it so that we can make it clear to the people who are doing this in our community that that's not acceptable to us. Also, a lot of challenges around illegal construction. We will have already had multiple walkthroughs with DCRA. As a matter of fact, I had one earlier this afternoon instead of lunch. So we'll continue to have those to deal with some of the illegal construction issues. Some of the properties have already been listed by me for review to become blighted properties, which will tremendously increase their tax burden and hopefully motivate them to do better. There are also other strategies that we're implementing right now in terms of additional reviews with DCRA to make sure that those properties are safe, and that no one's life is at risk because they are not following DC law around how to do construction in our area. And just so we're clear, 1835 8th Street Northeast has gotten additional reviews after that incident with part of the top floor coming off of the building that was extremely dangerous over the 4th of July weekend. That developer has had multiple complaints from us as a commission, and but gladly no one was hurt. The sad part is that it took that incident for DCRA to really understand the level of concern that we had as a community about what we were seeing at that site. But now this is a real opportunity for us to, hold them accountable and hopefully get DCRA to move that in a different direction. Still working on resident-only parking petitions, and you'll continue to see those being worked behind the scenes as well as on upcoming agendas if they aren't addressed prior to our October meeting. So that's everything from me for now. 5D06.
Yeah, not a ton. Everybody in 5D06 feels like they've been emailing me about little things here and there, so I'm working on all of them. I feel like I've got my finger in all the different holes in the dam right now. A lot of stuff going on with Trinidad Montello and the Morse and Montello intersections. I'm getting on them. I'm getting on DDOT. We need the flex posts put in. They put the signs, they did the markings, they didn't put the flex posts in. I am frustrated that it's taking so long. We need to get those installed, and I'm working on all of the applications they've sent back, whether it's RPP, speed bumps, whatever. I'm working on getting through all of that right now. There's a lot of chat going on. I'm trying to keep up with the bike lanes. I'm going to be at the protest next week. I want to talk to every single one of you. I want to talk about what's going on, explain, have a real conversation. I'll be there. And yeah, let's talk it out. Let's talk about it. Not really anything else from me.
Okay. All right. 5D07.
Just going to keep it short. I'm getting your emails. I'm working through everything, just like Commissioner Hoffman. I've got about 1,000,001 things going on over the summer, but no big projects in particular. So that's all.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the updates from all the commissioners. And I'm going to go ahead and move that we adjourn tonight's meeting. On that note, can I get a second on the adjournment?
Second.
All right, seconded by Commissioner Sauceda Guzman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Tonight's meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
Everyone.
Y'all be safe.